I think would be a positive.
Officially working on clocks, I started at the clock shop in 1981, so it's coming up on 26 years. But unofficially, I started working on clocks probably 3 or 4 years before that. Actually started with pocket watches. My brother bought me an old Waltham pocket watch for my birthday, and actually I guess that was 30 years ago. It was my 14th birthday. So he bought me a pocket watch. I sat down with a book I got out of the library and took it apart and rebuilt it. That was the start of it.
And you were hooked.
I was.
That's the feeling I'm getting. Yeah.
Well, I've heard a lot of guys refer to it as a sickness. Once you buy one clock or watch, then you've got to get another one, and before you know it, you're buried.
Now, I also observe that there are many old clocks or ancient clocks. Is that your specialty?
Well, I prefer working on older clocks. Unfortunately, over the years, we've been seeing a gradual shift, more and more new clocks. But still get enough old clocks in to keep me interested, keep me busy. Newer clocks, although the mechanics are essentially the same, it's not as much fun working on the newer clocks. Oftentimes on older clocks we have to make pieces by hand. We don't see that so much in the new clocks, although oftentimes it can be easier to get parts for an old clock than it can to get one that was made 10 years ago.
There you go. Now, I understand that you have a contract with the city of Boston?
Not the city of Boston. I take care of 3 important clocks in Boston, but they each fall under a different jurisdiction.
Would you like to name them?
Well, there's the Old South Meeting House.
Oh, great.
The Old State House and the Custom House Tower. And each one is taken care of by a different organization. The Marriott Ownership Resorts Incorporated takes care of the Custom House, and the Bostonian Society and the Park Service Department is in charge of the Old State House, and the Bostonian Society takes care of the I might have that backwards.
Who has the oldest clock, David?
Of
the 3?
Of the 3,
yes.
That would be the Old South Meeting House.
And how old might that clock be?
That clock was put in 1767, I believe. If you want, I can look it up. I've got
No, that's all right.
The book here.
That's okay.
No?
That's just fine. Now, how long have you been working on the Lawson Tower clock?
The Lawson Tower clock, back in the mid-'80s, I took care of winding that for about 6 years, I think.
As a winder?
Yep.
Okay.
I just took care of winding and basic maintenance. The clock had been rebuilt by the old owner of the clock shop, Scotty Seitz. I believe his son helped him with that project. They had rebuilt that back in, I think, 1983, 1984. And Scotty got tired of winding it, so the project of winding fell in my lap for, again, 5 or 6 years or so.
So you got to know the Historical Society reasonably well, didn't you? Kathleen Laidlaw?
I knew Kathleen Laidlaw.
And then David Ball.
I don't know Name doesn't ring any bells, no pun intended.
Okay, well, he's the latest president. David's been president for about 6 or 7 years.
I'm sure I've met him then. But, my contacts have been Bill Crusell and most recently Paul Miles.
Paul Miles, yeah.
They've been my contacts with the Historical Society.
Yeah. The Lawson Tower is Paul Miles' second love.
Yes.
I had to put his wife first. But he's been involved in that tower for the last 5 or 6 years, in all phases of it.
Oh.
Now including the interest in the clock.
He and I have spent a number of hours up there running cables. I think he was involved with the running of the new cables and wrapping the clock up in plastic so that they could reshingle. So I know I've seen him up there many hours.
Is that clock a challenge to you because of its age?
Age didn't present too much of a challenge. It was more the environment. The clock, carbon steel, when exposed to moisture, has a tendency to rust.
Oh boy,
and there was a lot of rust up there. That was a major portion of the restoration work, was removing rust, polishing it out, compensating for wear that had taken place over the years. But I think most of my hours were spent polishing rust and removing all signs of rust so that it won't continue rusting.
Would you say the clock is now functioning properly?
As far as I know it is. I don't know how to answer that. But the clock, when wound, does keep time pretty well.
Well, they have a full crew on winding. They have, I think, a minimum of 4 people who are winders. I followed one up to the very top not too long ago.
Did you get to wind?
I get to be a part of the whole operation. Yes.
It's quite a chore climbing up the stairs and winding the clock.
There you go.
I know
There
when
you
I
go.
was much younger, I was able to, I think one time I timed it, I was able to get my time down from getting out of the car to getting back in the car to about 10 minutes. But that was literally running up and down the stairs and non-stop winding. But can't do that anymore.
So, David, at this moment, now that the clock has been totally reshingled, restored in every aspect, that now the bells and the chimes, the townsfolks will feel very good about hearing the chimes ring out once again after a lapse period of 4 or 5 years. Are we all set to go?
Absolutely.
How nice.
I don't see any reason why the clock shouldn't continue running for another, what is this, 105 years?
105,
105 years, so. Although the earliest clocks I've taken care of, well, I think the oldest tower clock I've taken care of is the one in the Old South Meeting House. And that's, what, well, over 150 years old. So we've got a ways to go.
So you're going to stick with us?
Absolutely.
Wonderful. Isn't it great to have somebody reliable nearby who could help solve this problem?
Well, I think so.
I think it's wonderful.
Hope there's someone to take over when I'm done.
You got a long way to go before you're done.
It'll be a ways, yeah.
Well, David, thank you so much for your time. I greatly appreciate it.
Thank you.